a manatee that will be retiring effective. We're so excited that Miss
Hello.
Traci
Can you hear
has
me?
been of
Yes.
service.
Oh, okay. We have announcements happening right now, so you might want to just wait 1 minute.
Okay.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty loud in here.
But as we say, once a manatee, always a manatee. That's it for announcements today. You will want to read over the morning scrolling news. And as we say again, it's a great day or not.
You can tell it's elementary school.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you for doing this with me.
Sure, anytime.
And are you okay if I record this so I can transcribe it later?
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, my name's Kyle. I'm the one who emailed you, and I'm a little nervous. I don't know if you can tell that.
Oh, that's okay. Don't be nervous at all.
Never had to do an interview like this before. But I just
which class is this for? Is this for a specific class?
It is. It's for Foundations of Education of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing.
Okay. Is it Dr. Bassis or?
It is.
Awesome.
And I just have 5 questions.
Okay.
And I guess just go ahead and get started if you want. I kind of actually, if you want to introduce yourself too, that would be fine.
Sure.
I looked at your bio on LinkedIn a little bit.
Oh yeah. So I'm Traci Clark. Yeah, my LinkedIn, I mean, it's probably not too in depth, but so my name's Traci Clark. This is my 21st year as a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. I started back in 99 with St. Johns County. I graduated Flagler. And I remember when I saw the job post, I was kind of confused because I thought, at that time, it was just kind of like, isn't it just FSDB? Like, do people actually, is there something else in St. Johns County? I really didn't know. So when I applied for it, I found out that it was only the second year that they were going to have a teacher of the deaf. The very first year they hired a teacher of the deaf was the year before I started. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Cynthia Holmes, but she was the very first teacher of the deaf in St. Johns County. And then I started the year after. So I've been with the program ever since. When I started, there were only 2 of us. And now we're up to, well, technically we're up to 7, but right now there are only 6 of us. We had 1 teacher leave, and we haven't replaced her yet. So we're a 7, we're approved to hire 7, but we're functioning at 6 right now. Let's see. So my first several years I was itinerant and there were only 2 of us, and I covered the whole entire south end of the county, which would be from, I guess I say like Mill Creek area all the way south. And then the other person did all of north. So all of Ponte Vedra and then all of like that 210, all the creeks area.
Yeah, that's I'm very familiar with St. Johns County.
Yeah.
That's where I did my schooling.
Okay. So, of
Switched
course,
schools a lot.
Yeah, of course, back then there weren't as many schools.
Yeah.
Our county has grown exponentially over the years. So we didn't have as many, but that was kind of how we divided it. And then it's changed over the years. In terms of my experience, so I was fresh out of Flagler, came into the district, found that it was very different than what I ever imagined I was going to be doing, because I would say some of the courses that I took in Flagler that I kind of was like, I'm probably not going to need this. Those were the classes that I needed the most. So I found myself pulling out my like auditory oral things and my speech things and things like that, because I realized that especially in the county, most kids are not signers. Most kids are hard of hearing. So, I felt like I was much weaker in the area of that part of it, and also like the equipment that they needed to use, because now you become like the expert you're the person in the county that knows about hearing aids and how to hook up the FM systems or the assistive listening devices and what's appropriate for all of this kind of stuff. So, the one class in audiology was kind of like, oh no, I need to, I should have learned more in that. So, kind of a culture shock there. And then let's see, I'm trying to go by year. I would say in 2000, maybe, I think it was 2005. We started an auditory oral pre-K program because that was when more and more of students were getting implanted, and then we were seeing kids coming into pre-K age that were pretty typically developing,
Hello?
did more than what we were able to. And I taught, if I start to cut out, let me know, because I just got a message that my internet's unstable right now. So
Yeah, it cut out a little bit.
okay, so stop me if that happens and I don't realize.
Okay.
So I did that for 2.5 years, program to support maintaining the program. So then I went back itinerant.
Okay.
And from then on until current day today, we contract with the Clark School, and they provide our auditory oral education for our pre-K students. So up until they're ready to transition into kindergarten, once they're of age to transition to kindergarten, then they come into the district, or they could take McKay scholarship and they could, then it's their choice.
Oh.
So after that, then I went back being itinerant, and I was itinerant up in the North End for a little bit because, I had made all those relationships at the North End. It was at Cunningham Creek Elementary was where we had the auditory oral program. So I stayed up there for a couple of years, and then I had my own child, and I realized I wanted to be closer to home. So then I came back to the South End of the county, which is where I kind of started. And now I've been back here for many years here. Right now, my caseload is actually mostly signers. I have a lot of deaf, big D, deaf, culturally deaf students. So as you could see, I've kind of had the whole the whole gamut of, from oral, don't pick your hands up because we're really trying to teach that, to full voice off, ASL. So so that's just kind of like the way my career has gone. A couple of years ago, I was president of FEDA. Have you been to a FEDA conference, the Florida Educators of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing?
I haven't yet, no.
Okay. So actually, this is a great year for you to do it because of COVID, it is all virtual and it's free. So normally it's not free, but that's kind of our DHH state, teachers association. They, we do an annual conference.
No, I'd love to look more into that.
So
if you wouldn't mind possibly sending me some information.
Yep. And so the registration is open now. It's in the evening. So there's several courses. It's a whole week and in the evening, and it's free this year, which, that's new because of COVID, to just try to get people what they need. Hopefully they'll be back. The last several years we've had it at in Daytona at a hotel down there. So hopefully next year it'll be back, because it's really nice to see, you get to know people across the whole entire state. You get to network and collaborate. And so it's nice to at least have that one time during the year where you can kind of get together and really meet people and talk about similar challenges and how they approach different things. So hopefully, but at least there's something going on.
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I guess we can kind of get into it.
Yep.
So the first question I have is, what made you choose education of the deaf and hard of hearing over teaching like a regular hearing classroom as your focus, especially since that focus hasn't seemed to have changed in 21 years.
That what? Sorry, say that again. I didn't get the last part.
Especially since you've been in this position for 21 years.
Right.
That's
right.
Usually I've seen other people sort of move into maybe like a consulting position or something else that their degree can also do.
Right, right. So, all right. So originally, I'm from New York originally, and I went to just a community college at first, and I got my associates in liberal arts. I was always that person that I just wanted to be a teacher. I was one of those. I had a little sister. It was like, let's play school, I'm the teacher kind of thing. So I knew I wanted to become a teacher. At the time in New York, it was, not easy to get a teaching position. So it was kind of one of those things where, well, if you're going to go into education, you probably want to try to specialize in something because, everyone wants to be an elementary school teacher kind of thing. So at that time, my parents bought a house down here, like a vacation house. And we came down here and we drove by and I saw Florida School for the Deaf and Blind. And I thought, that's kind of cool. So when I went back to New York, I just took a sign class first time. That's not something that was available in high school when I was in high school. So I just started taking it, and my community college had an associate degree program called Deaf Studies. So after I took my first class, I was just hooked, and I kept taking the classes. And they really went in depth into like a lot of like just classes just on the culture of deafness. I had a class just on finger spelling, so there were all these. It was a really good program, but if it was deaf studies, so it wasn't getting me anything that I would be able to do to teach. So I think I was just a few credit shy of getting a second associate's in deaf studies, but I realized that's not going to get me anywhere. I need a bachelor's program. So and I also at the same time coming down here fell in love with Florida. So I decided I was going to move here and go to Flagler because I found out they had the deaf ed program. So that's kind of how I chose to get into deafness. I don't have, I did grow up with a girl who was hard of hearing, nothing in relation to sign language. I wouldn't say that was why or anything like that, but that was really, other than when I started school, that was my only exposure to anything in the world of deaf, hard of hearing at all. And then when I started here, I guess it's really my passion. So I've kind of stayed with it. I'm now the lead teacher, which doesn't mean much because it's still a teaching position, but I'm the lead teacher over our group because I'm the most veteran teacher in our group. But I actually just graduated with my master's degree in educational leadership. So I am looking to get into a leadership position. My youngest son is only in 4th grade. So my goal is for when he moves to middle school. So now what that's going to look like, I don't know yet. I don't know if I'm going to, it makes me kind of like, to get out of the field of deafness completely. But as you probably know, there's not many, I'm not going to move for it. So it's going to have to be something around here. So I don't know. We'll have to see what the future brings. But within the next couple of years, I'll be looking to make a change. But the field of deafness is my passion. So that's why I've kind of stuck with it all these years. I had thought a couple of times after I taught the auditory oral program in the classroom, the principal at the time didn't want me to go back to being itinerant. She wanted me to stay and teach kindergarten. And I really had to think about it because I loved being a classroom teacher. I loved the school. I had a lot of great colleagues and things like that. So I really had it, but the field of deafness just draws me. So that's kind of how I stuck on that path.
Okay. So question 2, what motivated the focus change in your master's degree away from the education of deaf and hard of hearing towards this educational leadership and administration?
Well, I think over the last several years, I've kind of become, you know, a leader within my group. I get a lot of support from we have an awesome team, a really well balanced team. I think we all have different strengths, and I think that, you know, one, through encouragement from all of the people I work with, and even my boss, like for many years, people are like, you need to go into leadership, you need to go. So, you know, going through the years and thinking about it, and thinking about, you know, you do have to take into retirement at some point. So, you know, being a teacher, there's only so far you can go. And so I guess looking into more, you know, more responsibility, of course, a greater increase in salary doesn't hurt, for sure. You know, to be able to retire one day, because based off of your highest 5 years. So that's always in the back of my mind. But always in the back of my mind is the whole, it's hard to leave something you've done for so long that you feel so passionate about. But I guess I look at it as, you know, I could come back if I really,
Yes.
you know, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. Yeah.
Well, I definitely understand that.
Yeah.
So the next question, moving right from Flagler into St. John's, did anything catch you by surprise when you finally got a set of kids? I know you talked a bit about using the oral and speech methods a lot more. And I think that's something that a lot of students even today are like, no, I'm never going to be able to use that in my classroom. I'm going to sign 24/7.
I know, and it's so funny, and having had many interns and things, that you have your ideas of what you think things are going to look like. But I'm getting ready to show you that is my. Did I cut off? It's
a little bit,
again,
it kind of,
as long as you could hear me,
it kind of came back in.
Clicks back on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's one big thing, is that, you know, you think that
I don't know if you can hear me, but you've cut out, and I don't think it's coming back yet. Hello?
You know, you go through the program and you think, are you back? Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Do you hear me now? I see you're moving now. I can hear you.
Okay, it lost all of that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, but you can hear me now. Okay.
Yeah, but it didn't get any of what you said before. Here.
Okay, what was the last thing you heard me say?
Yes.
Okay. So yes. Okay, so definitely, you know, you think that, you know, you go through and you think everything's going to be, you know, they always talk about like that vanilla deaf child, and it hits you that it's like, there's really no such thing as that. So you come in and you see that a lot of kids are hard of hearing. So now you're dealing with a lot of technology that you feel like, oh, and especially now in this day and age, I mean, I feel very comfortable with things like cochlear implants because I've kind of come up with it as we've increased that. But now, you know, you're coming into working with a kid and you have to make sure their equipment's hooked up and all this stuff. And be careful, because if that breaks, it's $20,000. Like, so stuff like that's a little intimidating, you know?
Yeah,
so a lot of technology. Yeah, technology for sure. The other thing that hits you that you don't anticipate too much is a lot of children are not just deaf, they're deaf plus. So the deaf plus population, that's a real culture shock. And I think, and I've had several interns that were kind of like, whoa, this is not what I bargained for. This is not what I expected. I don't know what to do with kids like that, you know, and you have to figure it out. You know, there are other professionals that you might need to you start to realize, like, I'm the teacher of the deaf. I have knowledge of deafness, but this kid is a lot more than just that. So you really have to be able to collaborate with other professionals and be able to bring your piece to the table, but work together to give that child what they need, that whole child what they need, not just the deaf piece of it. You know what I mean? Because that's one piece of some children. So yeah, so all those things I think put together are, the I love that your cat's that's so cute. I have one that does the same thing. I'm like, here comes the tail across.
She's messing with all this stuff up here.
So I would say those three things. Yeah. She's like, it's time to play.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we're up now? Cool. Let's get it going.
Yep.
Well, those are all definitely things that haven't really been touched on beyond, hey, here's something you might encounter maybe one day in like a super weird situation.
Right. And it's really more the reality. I mean, when you think about how many, I couldn't quote you the exact numbers, but if I give you a roundabout, like let's say if we have 150 kids throughout the whole county, right?
Mm-hmm.
From unilateral to maybe a kid that just has a 504 plan and doesn't have many needs for specialized. So all kids, from that kid to the deaf, profoundly deaf signer, all those kids, say 150, I think we have about 20 interpreters. So, and that's one-on-one. So if you think about 20 kids that sign, the rest are hard of hearing. So what's the bulk of your caseload? So you really, it's not all the same as what FSDB would be. So It's very different when you get into the county schools, for sure.
So what impacts have you made on the county or in specific schools to sort of improve things for yourself or the students?
Okay. Well, I guess, so I'll just kind of talk. So the auditory oral program would be one thing. That was something that we started that was brand new for the county. And like I said, we only shut it down because that next year coming in, we didn't have enough students to like maintain a whole class. So then that was when we began the relationship with the Clark school, so that we're still offering that option to parents. So we contract with them to provide that. And I'm the one who goes to the Clark school. I'm kind of that link between Clark and the parents and the public school. So I'll go there every year and I help writing the IEPs, because they do have to follow an IEP because they are a St. Johns County student, but they're receiving their education there. So I work to kind of streamline that transition so that when they start there and then they transition back into the public school. So I would say, I've seen that progression through and continue to do that. Another thing we've done as a team to enhance and a lot of this is social too, but we have a annual, we call it the Deaf Hard of Hearing celebration, and it's once a year, and we have secured funding from the Lions Club International. They provide us funding to have it's like a picnic. So for all of the deaf, hard of hearing families, they come, and we do, every year is like kind of a different theme, but it's pretty much the last several years we've gotten a big like water slide, and we provide food. We've had the ASL classes from the different high schools come, and they'll do like a different performance, sign language, dance kind of thing.
Super cool.
And the kids get to watch it and like vote on like which high school they think is the best. And so it's kind of cool, and it just brings families together, and all families together. So from your oral camp to your signing camp, and they're all, and when we talked about the first year we had the water slide, it was kind of like, oh, do we do that? Because, kids with implants are going to have to take them off. And, and then it was kind of like, but you know what? The reality is kids with implants still get in the water, and guess what? Now we're like this even playing field, like it's okay, and kids are kids and they're going to play and they're going to figure it out. So we do that once a year. We also once a year do, it's called the definition. So and it's DEAF edition. So it's kind of a spin-off. We've struggled for years on spelling bees because public schools love to do spelling bees. Well, it's so impossible to do it with our deaf signers because, well, if I
Yeah.
say a word, what word do you want me to spell, if even if I can spell it? So we do, it's a vocabulary competition, and it's all, we pull all of the most commonly used, it's for middle and high school, commonly used vocabulary words that you see in standardized testing, SAT, all that kind of stuff. So it's a way, and we give out study guides, and they come, it's in the evening one night, and the families come, we provide dinner, again, sponsored through the Lions Club, and they're paired off with another student. They don't know who. So it's teams of two. And we have like a PowerPoint, and it could be like we give the word and they have to pick A, B, C, or D, the definition. Or it could be we give the definition and they have to pick A, B, C, or D, which word matches it. Or it could be like a fill in the blank, A, B, C, which word. And they're teams, and they have to like hit a light, like a button. So it's kind of like a game show kind of thing, and they get points, and everyone gets a shirt that says the definition on it, all the participants. And then we have winners, they get, I mean, it's nothing big. It's like a $10 gift card, or it's just something like that, but it's kind of bragging rights. But we've been able to include other counties. And also FSDB has participated more and more too. So we're just trying to open it up, not just for our county, but like, let's get other kids, let's, whoever wants to compete. So that's something that we started that has contributed to the field. And I don't know, I guess that's pretty much it. We're always looking at participating in professional development and creating. We're really strong at looking at a student and figuring out what that student needs, and then having creating the program for that student, rather than saying, oh, well, this is what we have, so this is what you have to do. So I think like, and it changes from year to year. So we've had like right now I'm at Otis Mason, I have a pretty big population of deaf signing students. So I'm here a lot of the time. We don't consider ourselves to have like a center-based school, but it kind of starts to look like that. We had that a couple of years ago at St. Augustine High, where we pretty much had a DHH teacher there that was there almost all the time. But now we just don't have the kids. So we kind of ebb and flow based off of the students' needs, and we kind of build it based off of what the students need.
Very cool. It's so nice to hear that the Lions Club is still actively engaging the county and the schools.
Yes, they have been amazing. This is, I want to say, so last year was canceled because of COVID. I want to say that, are we up to I think this would be our 11th year. So it's been a while.
Yeah, I've volunteered at those before.
Oh, at the seafood festival or at the picnic?
At the picnic.
Oh, cool. Okay. Awesome.
The last question now. What advice could you give me, a nervous pandemic life living Flagler student, in the education of the deaf and hard of hearing program?
Okay, well, the biggest thing is definitely making sure you keep an open mind. I mean, and that's anytime I've ever had a practicum student or an intern and things like that, I always say, you really can't be, because I remember I was there, I went to Flagler. So you'd think things have changed since I graduated, but it's sad to say in some aspects it hasn't. Some of the whole, oh, it has to be this way. It doesn't have to be that way, because nothing is the way you think it should be every time. So it's keeping your mind open. There's going to be parents or things like that. You're not going to be able to to change their mind. So you have to, you know, you have to learn how to be a team with whoever you're working with, you know? So I would just say, keeping an open mind, learn as much as you can, even if it's something that you think, because you never know. You think like, oh, I'm probably not going to need that. And it could be the actual thing that you're like, oh, I wish I paid more attention to that because that's really what I need right now for this student. So, the biggest thing I would say is just really keep an open mind, learn as much as you can, because a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing has a very heavy toolbox. And the more things you could put in it, the better teacher you're going to be, because one approach is not going to work with probably more than one kid. You know, it's like, this worked for this kid, and this kid looks just like this kid. Look, their audiograms, they're the same. And that approach does not work with that kid. So you have to be a detective. You have to really dig deep to figure out, to really sort things out, to figure out this is where this kid's weakness is, even though I would think these two kids would be the same and these two kids, you know, but it's like, no, actually it's just so different. You really have to keep an open mind, learn as much as you can, different approaches. Even if you think that you're not going to use it, you'll be surprised, because it's always going to be that kid that pops into your life where you're like, oh, wow, I don't know what to do with this kid because I don't have that skill yet. And there's a lot of things that are offered. I would say for sure, look into FEDA. I'll email you the website. It's FEDHH is FEDA.org. Register for that conference. They'll have a keynote speaker, and then all the other presenters are teachers from around the state of Florida, and you'll get to see, I mean, I think someone's talking about itinerant teaching through the virtual world. So there'll be a lot of useful things, and you're hearing it from teachers in the field. So that would be really good. Definitely, if you're not already, get on the RMTC, the tech notes, and on their email, because everything that's anything in the field of deafness comes out from them. Do you know what RMTC is?
I think they are the ones that I actually signed up for webinars through, like a TA Live series.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah,
so
I'm signed up for that one.
Right. So they're the state discretionary project. And they, you know, all of them are awesome. They're experts in the field. I mean, anytime I have an issue that pops up, that's kind of like, I'm not quite sure. They're who I contact. And if they don't know the answer, they could tell you who. I mean, they have a good handle on what's going on in the state. And that will be good too. At the FEDA conference, they have a breakout session called State of the State. And they talk about, I don't know if they're going to get the program, the Tallahassee person to come talk about it, but they'll talk about the field of deafness. They'll talk about the population, how many percents. They'll like break up the different parts of the state. So it's really interesting to see county by county, deaf versus deaf plus students, and they will break that apart. So
very cool.
Yeah, just keeping all the resources, and those would be my best suggestions for you.
Awesome. Well, I don't have any more questions. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
All
but
right.
Thank you so much again.
You're very
welcome.
Appreciated. Very welcome. Good luck to you, and hopefully I'll run into you here or there.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. You too. Take care.